so many young players on this team. Going into a week like this, into a game like this, how do you just sort of just go, hey, when we get on the field, it is still just a football game. What do you say to them throughout the week?
You know, you got to prepare with purpose and make sure that you put in the work, but understand that these are the opportunities that you're looking for. That it's just a game. You know, it doesn't make or break the season. Obviously, you prepare for every game. It's no bigger than the App State game. There'll be a lot more atmosphere and things going on externally that you got to deal with. But just getting them focused in on it's going to come down to execution, just like any other game that we play. Taking care of the football, making big plays, winning in the competitive matchups. So just trying to get them to understand that you don't do anything different in preparation, but you have to make sure that you don't spend so much time worrying about the things you can't control.
Is there, I guess, any thought process during the recruiting process of trying to find guys who can settle in on a stage like this? I mean, obviously, kids coming from high school haven't played in front of 90,000.
Of course, when you're evaluating, you want to test their character, their competitive toughness, and obviously some kids are more prepared because of the high school situation that they come from. But more importantly, we have to do a really good job because nothing's going to prepare them for an 8 o'clock kickoff in Death Valley versus Notre Dame. So it's our job to make sure that we coach them in a certain way to prepare them and have the mental toughness. Because really, it's going to come down to, are you going to be able to maintain your discipline and execute at a high level in a situation where there's a lot more atmosphere involved.
Tony, is it even possible to get them to drown out most of what's going to occur this week? I mean, game day, Sports Center, blah, blah, blah.
I wouldn't say impossible, but that's our job this week, is to make sure that we drown out the noise, that we don't want to pay attention to who's coming in here, game day, and they got their, not just game day, but they got their family and friends, everybody wanting tickets, everybody's pulling at them, asking them how much are you going to play, you're going to be on TV, do this, do that. So we have to do a really good job of us as coaches making sure that we're not pressing. That we're maintaining, a level of calmness, of preparation that we have every week that we go into a game. So yes, it's a tough task, but I don't think it's impossible.
Looking at Notre Dame and their defensive scheme, they've lost a couple players. They lost a safety a couple weeks ago, and some more guys on the defensive line. Have you guys had a chance to really sit down and game plan with these guys? I'm sure you have. And what have you seen, and what do you guys, look forward to implementing this Saturday?
Right. First of all, the injuries, it doesn't seem like it's impacted them. I mean, they just got players upon players. They've done a really, really good job in recruiting. Similar to Louisville a couple weeks ago when I was asked that question. They may have some guys down, but the body types are the same. So they just keep reloading. Obviously, they have the safety that went out. I hate that situation for him, but they just bring another one in. And so they got a lot of depth on the back end. And then up front, it just looks like they just keep coming and coming and coming. And they're fundamentally sound. They play tough. So defensively, there's no weaknesses that we've identified, even with the injuries. So it's going to come down to making sure that we know what we're doing, that we're sound in our schemes. But then at the end of the day, it's just who's going to go make the competitive plays, who's going to win the one-on-one matchups. That's what this game comes down to.
What does that say about their mentality as a team to kind of overcome all that adversity?
Oh, of course, their coaches do a really, really good job, and obviously the type of young men, because we recruited some of the young men, so that they're high-character young men. They love to compete, and they just push those guys to not focus on the things that we're talking about that they can't control. They just go out and play. They take pride in the university that they play for. They understand the history and the tradition that they represent, and those guys just go out and they just play hard.
Is that how you try to coach your guys to say, hey, look, even when you think you got them beat, these guys aren't going to give up?
Oh, no question. That's one of the things that I pointed out. If you watch these guys play on defense, that they're relentless. They play through the whistle. Some guys you can point out where a guy may take a play off or two, but these guys, when they play hard each and every play, and they're competitive, they play within their scheme, they're sound. So that's the thing that I've really been challenging our guys, is to match their intensity and make sure that you're playing not to the whistle, but through the whistle, because these guys are going to play.
Do you see anything in the film that they're doing in particular really well that you say, okay, this is really going to give us some issues, or anything that you can pinpoint like that?
I think when you watch number 9, I mean, that dude is a freak athlete. So you always got to know where he's at. And number 91 plays as hard as anybody I've seen. He reminds me a lot of Grady Jarrett. A little bit bigger, not quite as low to the ground and compact, but he has that type of motor. They move well. Their defensive ends are strong at the point of attack. They get off of blocks well. They all rally to the football. They're DBs, they get up in your face and they jam you. They're not afraid to play man coverage. And then their safeties are tacklers. So they do a lot of things well. Hadn't been able to really pinpoint any weakness on their defense.
I hate to say it, but are you kind of looking forward to seeing somebody play a little press man?
Oh, of course, of course. I mean, as a receiver, that's what you want. You want to be challenged, but at the end of the day, too, they got to go make the play. And when you watch it, it's very similar to what we go against every day in practice with McKenzie and those guys. And in practice, for us to succeed, it comes down to making the competitive plays. So yes, you like to see man coverage because it gives you an opportunity that if there is a breakdown in technique, you could have a big play. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to those guys on the perimeter making the one-on-one plays.
What's been most beneficial about having this extended period off before such a big game?
Well, the biggest thing is trying to get our guys healthy. You know, obviously with Joe going out last week and Jake going out and then Norton being out just gives us some time to kind of nurse those guys back. But then also getting an opportunity to go back and really, really study all of their games from last year just to see if there is a certain flavor that the defensive coordinator likes to have based in personnel packages. So we've had a little bit of time to go back and really look at and get a good understanding for Van Gorder because he's a little bit different than when we played him back when he was at Auburn. A little bit different scheme. So it's just give us some time to really get a feel for him, but then also, you know, making sure that we don't go overboard and try to put too much stuff in. You know, that's kind of the downside of having a lot of time because you can overanalyze and overcomplicate things. So it's been a good Coach Sweeney does a great job of handling the schedule too by making sure that obviously we got to get our work in, but not giving us too much time to experiment.
Tagging on to that, with the freshmen that we have on the team now, the extra time that they had a little bit more of a chance to soak in the playbook?
You know, that they have. And again, that's a process because, again, each week as we go through the season, we're going to add a little bit more and bring some things out that we haven't repped since camp because we see some defensive structures that may be beneficial for us to pull those out. So again, even though they're getting some time to dive in, we're still pulling some things out that they may not have seen, so they got to go back and refresh themselves. But it's a good opportunity for those guys to get some more experience.
Going back to Van Gorder in 2012, it looked like they played maybe more of a base defense back then. It's a little bit more exotic in his blitz packages now. Is that kind of what you're seeing, that he changes it up more?
Right. When he was at Auburn, it was more 4 down, more of a two safety structure. They're still going to base out of a 2 shell, but they're going to be a lot more aggressive. They got some really exotic odd packages where they bring pressure, where they'll stand big guys up in space and try to get them matched up on the back, which is a matchup advantage for them. Play a lot more man coverage than we saw in the past. So he's got the personnel, and again, they're still going to be sound. They're going to take some chances, but they're going to have the athletes on the back end to be able to make up for any chances that they take up front.
With a 16-day layoff, is there any worry about just sharpness early on in the game that every single play is going to matter? Just making sure you come out here sharp as you need to be?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's the key to this game is going to be execution because you're going to have 2 evenly matched teams for the most part. And so the key is who can get off to a fast start, who can play at the highest level, and who can execute at the highest level. So again, there's a little bit of a concern, but you know we feel good about the preparation we've had thus far. We still got another week to continue to prepare. But yes, that is going to be a point of emphasis that we got to come out, we got to start fast, we got to execute and take advantage of the opportunities.
What do you think about this?
Randall also well last week. It was easy to stick with him, but it's got to be a fine line knowing when to give somebody else an opportunity if you already don't come so easily. How difficult is that to make that decision, know when to do that?
Well, you know, what Wayne did last week is what I was hoping was going to happen is that he kind of separated himself and he proved to everybody. I think we knew it, but he proved it that he can go out and be a 20-carry guy, 100-plus yards a game, and really be the workhorse. And so with that, you know, there was a challenge to all the guys in the room that, look, we wanted to do it by committee, but if Wayne is going to go in this direction, then we got to make sure that we have good competition for the next guy to run out there because, again, the reps are going to be limited for those guys that are on the sideline. So, you know, hopefully Wayne will get hot again like he did. But, again, you got to be committed to the run, and so we can't give up on it early. And obviously you're playing a really, really talented defensive front that they're not going to give you anything, so you got to stay committed to it, and hopefully he'll get hot and start finding some creases. But if he doesn't, then at some point in time you do got to go to the next guy. But the competition has been opened back up for the number 2 guy to run out there throughout the rest of this week.
Was 99 a matchup headache for you?
99?
Tillery, the freshman?
You know, you hadn't seen a whole lot of him until last week. You saw mostly inside. You saw 91. You saw 75. But he does show some flashes. And I even made the comment watching the UMass game today with the guys in the room. It's like, man, I hadn't seen him a whole lot because he shows some quickness and some things that you hadn't seen inside. So obviously we got to be prepared. But no more of a matchup problem than Day. I mean, Day, like I said, Day is going to be as good as we play. Like I said, very, very reminiscent of trying to block Grady Jarrett. If you one-on-one, you know, you got to pack a lunch to block him. You know, you got a better chance and when you double him. And then also they do some things with him too. They move him around and put him out at defensive end. Plays with great quickness. So, yes, 99 has jumped out. Haven't seen a whole lot to really analyze if it's going to be a matchup problem, but he does show some things that catch your attention.
Is Schmidt kind of a prototypical middle linebacker, just kind of captain on the field, directing traffic, or is he an impact player?
You know, I think the combination of him and 9 direct the traffic. I think he does a lot, but you also see 9 in there directing some traffic as well. But 38 makes plays. I mean, he's all over the field. They have him out in coverage. They have him in the box. They blitz him. They do a lot of things with him, so he's very, very versatile. So you can see why he's the captain of that team. And if you don't account for him, yeah, he can create a problem for you.
Tony, the last time we had this kind of atmosphere and excitement around here, things didn't go so well for you guys. There were a lot of players on that team who are on this team now and older. Do you guys, do the coaching staff bring that up to them at all, or is it more information for the coaches to say, okay, 2 years ago, maybe we came up short here, let's prepare even better this time around?
You know, that's more information for the coaches. We haven't mentioned anything along those lines. I'm assuming you're talking about the Florida State game. Yeah, we haven't mentioned anything to those guys that were on the team or the ones that weren't. We're just focusing on the opportunity that we have and making sure that we have our guys prepared to go out and execute at a high level, and letting them understand that regardless of the atmosphere, it's about Clemson and how we play. But you got a very, very formidable opponent coming in here that you're going to have to play well in order to beat them.
On a personal note,
Chance that we might see Dion a little bit more, maybe moving into a different role, moving Sharon back to his original position. I mean, has that been thought about?
Oh, there's been thoughts. There's been some conversation because obviously we know how talented Dion is. It's just a matter of, not putting too much on his plate because obviously he's one rep away from having to fill in for Sharon and be that guy at that position. So having him prepared to do that, but then also trying to find some ways within the game plan to see if we can take advantage of his talents. So there's been a little bit of talk about that.
on a personal note, have you been deluged, or were you deluged with ticket requests? You haven't people come out of the woodwork you haven't talked to in years?
Not so much people coming out of the woodwork, but I am about to cut my phone off and turn that responsibility over to my wife for the rest of the week because now is the time. Not only do you have high school coaches that want to come to the game, that you want to make sure that they have an opportunity, then you also have a lot of family and friends, and it's the same thing that the kids are dealing with. I have to do the same thing. Is just kind of don't focus on that and focus on putting together the best plan to give these guys a chance to be successful.
Big or bigger than you've ever faced for one game?
Not bigger,
As big as like the Carolina game?
as big as the Carolina game.
Florida State.
Yep.
Is that a good idea to do though? The lady's about to have a baby.
Well,
Wow, that's a
well, she got a little bit of pub, so I guess I can throw a little more responsibility on her plate. But she's awesome, and I couldn't do what I do without her. And for her to tell me that, hey, we're having a baby on Thursday, you're there for the birth, you're back to work on Friday, tells me that she can handle it.
Garrett Williams,
Mhm.
how is he progressing, and how can you use him effectively against this defense?
Right. There's going to be some situations in the game where you're going to have to convert in short yardage situations. So he's a guy that can come in and give us an extra hat, but then also is effective out of the backfield. So you can do some things with him there. And then he's just got to be ready in any of our 12 personnel situations where we want to put 2 tight ends on the field to be ready to go between him and Stanton. So I think he's a guy that's coming along, especially from a blocking standpoint, and he's getting better every day as a receiver. So there's going to be some opportunities for him.
Speaking of out of the backfield, Zach Brooks, is he going to finally be there healthy, and could he be an option on third down?
I think Zach is at a point where he's healthy now. I think there was some apprehension on my part early in the season because he was coming off of the shoulder there right at the end of camp and didn't want to rush him back because I know when he's healthy, he's very, very effective. But then also he's had his stretch of just had some freak injuries, so just a little apprehension there. But again, we opened it back up for all those guys that compete, and he's one of the guys that I anticipate that by the end of the week he'll have pushed for more opportunity. And yes, he's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. But it's just so tough in those situations when you're playing fast to be able to sub those guys out. And so it's a challenge to Wayne. That question right there is a challenge to Wayne to make sure that you're working on your ball skills out of the backfield so that if we get caught out there in a situation where you got to catch the ball, that we're not sitting here like Louisville, dropping a Texas route for a conversion there.
Is this a Deshaun Watson game, kind of game?
You know,
Big stage?
I think so. I think the first time we saw him was down in Athens, big stage, and he performed. And looking at Louisville last week, he, with the exception of the pass that he missed there to Jordan Leggett, probably played a pretty good game, ran the ball well. So I think he's primed and ready to roll. And obviously he's came to Clemson because he wanted to play in games like this, to have an opportunity to compete against the top programs in the country on the biggest stage. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to be excited and ready to play.
Anything else?
All righty. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.